Welcome back. Hi guys. Today I'm with the amazing Chris Collins, founder of this beautiful fragrance brand. And today we're going to talk all about our tips on how to start a fragrance brand.
Yes.
And many other things.
Yes.
So Chris, what would you say would be your first tip for people watching who want to start their fragrance brand? Like, what was the first thing you did to get started?
Well, you need to be so passionate about it and so obsessive about it. And I think from knowing your story and obviously knowing mine, it started from there. I mean, I was obsessed with fragrance as a kid. I would love smelling new fragrances, and I love traveling to like Grasse to learn the history of perfume. So be obsessed about it, and then let your obsession kind of guide you into the direction of what you want to launch and when you want to launch.
I could not agree more. I feel like it's not just for fragrances, it's like any business you want to start. If you're trying to create an actual brand that's going to go somewhere, that's going to live on beyond your years, like you need to have almost an insane obsession with that.
I agree.
Whatever it may be.
The biggest advice I usually give to people is just start somewhere, because once you start, then the universe will kind of conspire to help you, but you have to start.
Yeah. There's this saying in Arabic, it's called al-haraka baraka. Say it with me.
Al-haraka baraka.
Oh my God! That means with movement comes blessings.
That's right.
The more you just get started, start moving, and as you move, blessings will come.
That's right.
So what was your actual starting point? Where did you decide, like, I'm obsessed and I actually think, you know, I want to create a brand, I want to do something different?
It actually started from me meeting another perfumer, Killian. He ended up being my mentor, but the way that I got to him was a pretty cool story. First fragrance that I was ever introduced to was Musk Ravageur from Frederick Mall.
It's a good one.
And a friend of mine gave it to me because his girlfriend didn't like the way it smelled on him. And I said, man, what is this? This is new. This is different than anything I've ever smelled. So I wore it. I ran out of it. And I asked him, I said, where did you get it from? And he said, well, I got it from Bergdorf Goodman. So I went to Bergdorf to buy it. And they said, well, we don't sell it here, but we have another brand. And actually, the guy is here who owns the brand. So it was Killian. So Killian was there that day when I went to go buy in Frederick Mall Musk Ravageur.
That is
and I ended
so
up
crazy.
getting straight to heaven from Killian. At the time I was in fashion, but he was like super like supportive. He knew that I love fragrance, so he introduced me to that whole world. He mentored me in like the creative process. It's important to have people around you that know about perfume and can kind of guide you in the right direction, because it can be a little confusing if you didn't grow up in that world. But good to have good mentorship, like a perfumer or someone who's owned a brand or someone who knows about the fragrance business. That's very helpful.
Yeah, that's such an amazing story, and like what a like coincidence. Like this person gifted you that fragrance because his girlfriend didn't like it. That led you to like heighten your obsession, and then you go looking for it, and then you meet Killian. That is just
I believe in divine
story.
Intervention, and the universe has kind of put you in places where you're supposed to be.
After you know what your obsession is, and you knew yours was fragrance, and you met Killian, and you found this great mentor, like how did you actually get started? Like how did you even think, you know, what you want your brand to be, what you wanted it to look like, and partners that you wanted to work with, like which fragrance house? Tell us about that journey, because that's always really exciting and obviously probably the most hard part of the journey.
So about 7-8 years ago, I was with friends in Cannes, and we were all having dinner, and they asked me, it was like, if you weren't in fashion, like what would you do? What would you want to do? I said, I would love to like create my own fragrance. I didn't think about a brand. I just thought about creating my own fragrances. And then the table got quiet, and then they all looked at each other and said, well, you know, Grasse is about 45 minutes that way. And I said, well, what's Grasse? So they explained to me that it was like the birthplace of fragrance. So one of the friends gave me his car, and I drove to Grasse.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't make any appointments because no one would take my appointment. And I just drove to every single fragrance house that would let me in. I remember stopping at Robote. I remember stopping at IFF. And you got to be a little crazy sometime if you want to do something like as special as this. And then I just met with them, and they talked to me, and then they basically gave me like a blueprint of what I needed to do.
That's so cool.
But I ended up working with like a smaller fragrance house because I knew the bigger ones were already kind of working on like bigger brands and volumes and all that kind of stuff. I found a smaller fragrance house that kind of believed in me.
That's so awesome.
It was called Archeville in Mougins.
Okay, cool.
They created Harlem Nights.
Ooh.
One of my first fragrances, my first 3.
Can I spray it?
Rum, a little patchouli. So I had to start like at a smaller house.
So delicious.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
But one that believed in me and wanted to kind of bring my ideas to life.
And I love that, you know, giving people the advice of starting small, because I feel like everybody thinks that they need to go like the top manufacturer in the world or the biggest. And the biggest doesn't mean that it's the top either. Like sometimes these smaller perfume houses are actually a lot more talented, a lot more passionate, have more interesting resources because they don't have to worry about being as big and scaling as big.
And don't look at the end result of like your beautiful brand. and say, I want that, and not understand that
What it
the
took to
work.
get there.
I've watched you for a long time.
Oh, that's sweet.
From founder to founder, I understand how much work that goes into this. So everyone needs to know that you got to work your butt off.
What would you say is the number one lesson you learned so far?
Well, in the beginning, you just want one person to buy your fragrances. So when you're creating, you're trying to make everyone happy. I learned quickly that that's impossible. There's some people that are not going to like it, and there's some people that are going to love it. You have to be true to yourself when you create, because you need to believe in it. It needs to come from a very honest place, because people know if it doesn't, and you need to tell that story so people can connect to you and to your brand.
And I feel like with fragrances in particular, I think it's the most subjective product in the world, because notes and scent profiles are connected to memories.
That's right.
So it's not only is it like what is widely appealing, maybe that will remind somebody of someone they hate
Exactly.
or someone they love,
Exactly.
or a bad memory or a good memory.
Right.
So therefore you really have no idea if someone's gonna like
That's
it.
why I never get offended when someone tells me I don't like this fragrance.
Right.
It may not be that they don't like
be
the
personal.
fragrance. It could be personal. It could
Yeah.
be a
And
note.
they might not
in
even
there.
know it.
They might not know it.
They
Right.
might not know it.
The important part is like the reason why you may not is because there may be a note in there that reminds you of a place and time that you don't really want to go to. And and it's
Exactly.
different on the other end too. You may love it because it reminds you of something that's a
love.
happy time in your life,
Exactly.
love, or
It's
a
the
moment,
most complicated thing on the world.
which makes it the most amazing.
Exactly. After just figuring out what kind of fragrance you want to put out there, how would you suggest people go about like marketing their fragrance, or whatever it may be, whatever the business may be?
Well, ironically, that's something that I'm learning from you,
Stop it.
because
Gonna make me blush.
it took me, watching you, and you're amazing. You're the biggest, champion for your brand, and you're the biggest influencer
thank
of your
you.
brand. And not only that, you also talk about other brands, and you talk about fragrances that you love. It kind of like propelled me to be more in front of my brand
Oh, it's so
and to be more personal. You want to let people in a little bit. Let them know that you're human, that you're real, that you make mistakes and you have successes, and we're all in this boat together. But, I'm learning that you have to, be active in social media, but you have to shoot stuff that's like really honest, and people kind of relate to you and connect to you.
Yeah. It was so amazing getting to know more about you and hearing all your advice. Honestly, Chris is so wise. Make sure you guys check him out, follow him, check out his website, show him some love. He's sold in Sephora in the US, Saks,
Bergdorf Goodman, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus.
Wow. Stay tuned. We're going to do part 2 because he's just full of way too much knowledge, information, wisdom that I want to share more. Stay tuned, guys. Bye.